What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast for the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, and joining me for the 65th and change-ish episode is my co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. How are you?
Flustered, but we're getting through it.
So we've only done this intro once or twice before.
Twice.
I can't remember. Twice, yeah.
Twice.
So this is thrice.
Third time's a charm, right, Jordan?
Yes.
Perfect. If you're a loyal listener, you know what this episode's already about. We're doing a tour around the NFC. Did the AFC last week, doing the NFC this week, concluding with the Green Bay Packers. So, as the title card says, and as the title says of this podcast, a lot of change in the NFC. A lot going on. A lot of changing of faces, changing of teams. A couple teams getting better, as you'd hope. A couple teams getting significantly worse, as you'd expect. So, I think without further ado, we just hop right into it. And we start with Andrew Snyder's own NFC South Carolina Panthers. Jordan, tell me about the Panthers.
Made some we're at the center of the offseason. Especially through the draft. Made some big moves. Some of which may have been critically rejected, I guess is the right word, right?
I think so. I'm not entirely sure what you're alluding to, but
We're talking about Bryce Young, like making Bryce Young himself, but the process of making the big swing for.
I wouldn't say rejected because that makes it sound like David Stern rose from the dead and said football reasons you can't make that trade, but criticized. I would
criticize. Yeah,
I would definitely go with because that was a lot of picks.
It was a lot of picks. A lot of picks from a team that wasn't all that good to begin with. They were actually. Let me bring up their standings. I forgot to do this before we started recording for a third time. Now I am flustered. The Panthers ended up finishing better than you thought, though. They were 7-10.
Still not the best.
As was two of the other NFC North teams.
South.
Anyway, yes, NFC South. God. Ugh. Anyway, let's go through the resignings. Brought back Shaq Thompson. Brought back Bradley Bozeman. They brought back their kicker Eddie Pinheiro. They brought back a player named Michael Jordan.
Do you think the Michael Jordan moonlights as a Panthers player?
I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, he's obviously not an owner of the Hornets anymore. But
he's not really built like a left guard, but he's got the attitude for it.
He does have the attitude for it and the jeans, as in the actual jeans that he wears.
No, his Levi's.
His Levi's, yes. Made a lot of changes, as we've talked about. Arrivals.
A lot of signings. A lot
of signings. Miles Sanders from Philadelphia, running back. Adam Thielen. Von Bell from Cincinnati. Hayden Hurst, also from Cincinnati. Andy Dalton, who used to play in Cincinnati. DJ Chark. Eric Rowe. Now we're getting in the weeds with Damian Beard, a wide receiver who's kind of bouncing around. That's a lot of free agent signings.
Washed or not, Adam Thielen? Curious on your opinion.
I would say I don't know if washed is the word I would say. Decline. I think definitely say.
This feels extremely similar to the Jordy Nelson Raiders season.
I think that is a very apt comparison.
Yeah, just like
he'd already been kind of phased out with the Vikings too.
Right.
The last couple of seasons. Like he was still like a relevant player, but like the years that he was, doing Wes Welker type things of like just catching 120 passes or whatever it was, was long gone.
Right.
Drafts. Bryce Young, big one. New quarterback of the future, all that stuff. Also got Jonathan Mingo, who was kind of lauded as a, nice depth wide receiver behind like the first, day one guys that we, hoped maybe the Packers would look at or whatever. But yeah, immediately got their quarterback of the future and maybe got their number one wide receiver of the future too.
They need him after DJ Moore left.
That is the big one, the big Kahuna. Also, well, Big Panther, the Big Panther on that statue that Jerry Richardson built of himself. Do you
Yep,
remember
I do remember that.
that? Yeah. Departures: DJ Moore, obviously. Sam Darnold, Deontay Foreman also had been in the mix with their running back core
Yeah.
last couple of years, but obviously with Miles Sanders there.
Always kind of in the mix for the starter whenever Christian McCaffrey got hurt.
Oh yes, that's right.
Either him or Chuba Hubbard. Strong name alert, by the way.
Yeah, the handcuff if you're playing fantasy football.
Yeah,
That was
you
kind
had
of
to have both
Deontay
of them
Foreman.
because you just couldn't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, DJ Moore going in
So
the Bears trade for number one overall pick to get Bryce Young. So
that was and new coach Frank Reich
yeah,
too. I should have included in arrivals.
that'll be an important one for sure.
That was the Panthers offseason.
I forgot to get over unders up. Oh no, how am I gonna do this? I'm flustered. We're flustered, folks.
You'll buy time.
The Panthers over under is
I'm
still
gonna guess 6.5.
vamp because that website did have it, even though they advertised it.
Ah,
7.5.
7.5. That is high.
Yeah.
That's too high for my blood. I'm already gonna go under.
Yeah, me too.
They're
think
young.
I think they have the thing they need in their quarterback, hopefully. But I also believe that there's just not a whole lot around them to be able to compete. Like the names that they signed sound nice between Miles Sanders, Adam Thielen, and Hayden Hurst, but those guys aren't. Like particularly Adam Thielen and Hayden Hurst are not really going to make or break an NFL season.
Miles Sanders could do wonders. I don't
He
know
could.
how,
I just
but
don't.
yeah, I agree. The other two are not like
For
that's gonna carry your offense.
a young team that just traded away its best receiver and has a rookie quarterback, like I don't expect Miles Sanders to be able to carry that load as much as they would like him to, I'd imagine. Because their only other receiver, like the receiver depth chart is not great. Adam Thielen, DJ Chark, Terrence Marshall Jr., Jonathan Mingo, and then
Chark is a good one,
Chark
but
is
again, not
yeah.
a one that would
again, he's a solid 2 or 3 guy receiver. He's not a 1, which is
I
the
forgot
issue.
they have Chenault too.
Yeah. So he was like fine last year. They have a lot of wide receiver 2s,
Yes,
which is not the best place to be. Speaking from experience last year as Packer fans.
of course. Their
Yeah.
key to success would be strong offensive line, so Miles Sanders just does wonders,
Yeah.
and their defense playing well because they still have Brian Burns.
Mm-hmm.
Casey Horn was a top draft pick a couple years ago. I believe he's had injury issues, so that has kind of complicated things.
He is
But,
questionable right now, so
yeah, I saw that. It was straight. Um, that is throwing me up. But like that is kind of the recipe for any team that has a young quarterback at the center, Packers included, that you just rely on the running game, your defense playing, to average or above standards, or above average, and just kind of doing things that way. But the one thing is, this is a division that is not strong in any way.
no, it's
But
not good.
there could be a team that does differentiate itself over the time.
Certainly could. That be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Just maybe.
That would not. That would not be. Let's go through the re-signings. Shaq Mason, quality offensive lineman, back. Levante David, the Iron Man. I feel like he's been playing for like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Jamel Dean, Nick Leverett, Anthony Nelson, Russell Gage. They all came back. I mean, that thins out at the end of it, but yeah, their top names are still back. Their defense is still intact in some ways.
That defense is still good.
Still good.
Like it's they're gonna hang around in games, but I get worried about the offense.
Yes.
Also, FYI, they did not keep Shaq Mason. He went to the Texans. Just FYI.
And over the cap got me. Okay.
That's all right. No, I
Um,
think
well,
the
then that changes things.
a little bit. Yeah, they still have Shaq Barrett, but not Shaq Mason.
Maybe that's right. No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't
It
matter.
does not matter.
Um, anyway, arrivals. Uh, I also, if you, as we go through the list, I did it by snaps, a percentage of snaps.
Yeah.
So it's gonna, so you'll see bigger names towards the end of the list that I'm talking about, but that was based on the list that I was
Mm-hmm.
pulling it from. Matt Feller, he's a left guard for them,
Yeah, from the Chargers.
for the Chargers. Greg Gaines, leave Rams.
Yes. Uh, inside D lineman from the Rams.
Another Rams player. Baker Mayfield, possible starting quarterback.
I mean, either him or Kyle Trask. Like, it ain't pretty.
No. They also signed John Wolford, who is also of the Rams as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Neal, safety. Chase McLaughlin, kicker. Chase Edmonds, the running back that has kind of bounced around from
He was all over the
uh,
place.
Arizona,
To I think
Miami,
Miami, then to
Denver.
Denver. I think he was part of. I don't know if he was
That
part of the
the Chubb
trade, but
trade.
yeah. So then
Um,
now down in
yeah,
Tampa, back in Florida.
definitely Baker Mayfield leads off that list, considering just what position he plays at.
Right. I think they're going to be okay, but we'll see how it goes with the bigger problem are the departures.
Yes. Tom Brady. Tom Brady, yeah, even with how well, or not well, but how he played last year, that was still a big hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Edwards, Donovan Smith. We could add Shaq Mason to this list. Um, Leonard Fournette, Keanu
still
Neal,
still unsigned.
still unsigned. Them and a team that we'll get to later. There's a lot of players that just left and have not been signed from the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I think it's definitely weird.
Yeah.
Definitely weird.
Keanu Neal, safety, that was kind of a coup for them. I think he was from the Falcons or something like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Julio Jones didn't really do much of anything.
No.
Akeem Hicks, forgot that he was on Tampa Bay.
He did a lot of things. Not so much
Logan
last year,
Ryan,
but in years prior. Yeah.
yeah. William Golston, Scotty Miller, the NFC Championship killer for the Packers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot. A
Yeah.
lot of core pieces there too.
Yeah, particularly obviously the greatest quarterback of all time, but I think it matters a little more than that when you just have that much turnover, that much churn going through
Yeah.
your team. Particularly with Leonard Fournette. I think Leonard Fournette's still good. I'm not really sure why they decided to not keep him or then cut him and re-sign him to a smaller deal, but I would have loved to have Fournette on my team if I was the Buccaneers.
It's a strange situation. I know their backup running back. I mean, we'll get into it more, but um, just to round things out, draft. I'm going to butcher this name. Kalijah Kauncey from Pittsburgh.
It sounds right to me.
Cody Mauch was their second round picked as well. A lot of defensive heavy picks. I mean, it's not surprising that Todd Bowles is the coach and everything like that. So kind of typical of what you would expect from a defensive coordinator turned head coach.
Right.
Yeah, just kind of, I don't know. I mean, they're kind of back to being the Buccaneers, not the Tom Brady led.
Yeah, they're kind of back
obviously.
to where they were with Jameis Winston. Like it's kind of in that same. We're gonna hang around in games probably, but you won't see us in the playoffs, most likely. And I think Vegas thinks that as well. Over under 6.5. It's a pretty set line. I'm sure. I think they probably get 6. I think I'm gonna go under.
And that's
Because one, because of the division. Two, because
quarterback situation.
that like Baker's not the worst quarterback to be starting the NFL this year, likely, but he
No.
certainly isn't in that upper echelon of quarterbacks or even top 15. Like he's probably 20 in like the top 32.
I mean, they still have
They still have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin
Chris
catching
Godwin.
balls. Like that's gonna help you win
Their
games.
offensive line is still very strong. They're
Hmm.
banking a lot on. I know he did well in like um, spot minutes or spot snaps, whatever you want to call it. Rashad White.
Yeah,
You know, I just don't know if that is what 6.5. What did you say? 6.5 or 6?
6.5. Their line is 6.5. I think they get only to 6.
That is like perfect. I will also go under.
Right. For what it's worth, like touching on the why they didn't like keep Leonard Fournette idea, they're 31st in total salary. It's not like they have a
Yeah,
lot of money tied up in players. Like I just don't know why they would have let him walk when you're gonna be average anyways. Like I would rather have, frankly, Rashad White, Leonard Fournette, and maybe a third, either if it's Keyshawn Vaughn or Chase Edmonds, as my running back room, rather than Rashad White, Chase Edmonds, Keyshawn Vaughn. Like I would rather replace Leonard Fournette with or for the other two second and third stringers. I know he's getting old, but like he wasn't bad last year, and he's still pretty darn good when he um, has the ball in his hands.
yeah. I mean, the one thing too, I know we're kind of looking at the offense of things, but like they still have all pro
Right.
defensive pieces. I mean, it's Vita Vea, Devin White,
Yeah.
Levante David's still really productive even at his age.
Mm-hmm.
Shaq Barrett, Jamel Dean,
Yeah.
Antoine Winfield, like they're Carlton Davis, like the pieces are there
You
for
know what this
them.
reminds me of? This reminds me of the Packers, like this year. They have a lot of good defensive players, but their offense is like a big question mark on if their quarterback can carry some of the talented receivers and players they have on offense.
I
The
would
difference
agree
being,
with
I
that.
think Jordan Love is better than Baker Mayfield, or I hope he's better at least,
And they don't have a running back
as
close
good
to
as
Aaron
Aaron
Jones.
Jones. Yeah, at least
Yeah, I
not
think that's
not
a
not
fair
this
one.
moment. Yeah, not this moment. They don't.
They could be like, this is kind of a terrible comparison because they were not good, even after making like a star trade. But the Broncos defense was like legitimately good last year.
Oh yeah, it
And
was. It
they could have been a better team if they
had a better
didn't lose.
quarterback. Yeah,
Had a better quarterback, certainly had a better head coach because
yeah.
yeah, all that kind of stuff that you know follows a team that makes a sudden, not sudden, but a turn in terms
Hmm.
of where phase they're in.
Should we move on?
Let's do it.
The Dirty Birds, the Atlanta
Dirty
Falcons
Birds.
team. I don't think is gonna be
Um,
very good this year either. This entire team is, or the division is just meh. But go for it.
Resignings. Caleb McGarry, offensive lineman. Lorenzo Carter, edge rusher. Chris Lindstrom, also an offensive lineman. Um, like the Panthers, they made a lot of moves. They had the second highest amount of cap space available for agency, and they spent a lot. um, Jesse Bates, the third, Bud Dupree, Calais Campbell, Eddie Goldman, who I believe was on the Bears
A couple years ago,
last couple years
yeah.
ago. Matt Collins from Las Vegas,
Former
Mike
like top
Hughes.
5 pick, wasn't he? Top 10 pick for sure. I'm pretty sure.
Matt
Or no, no,
Collins?
no, 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 no. This is the wide receiver. My apologies. I'm thinking
Who
of
are you
somebody
thinking?
else. I'm thinking of somebody else whose name is escaping me at the moment.
Khalil Mack?
Yep, that's who it is. That's who it is. Mike Hughes, Tyler Heineke, Heineke.
Yep.
It'll be interesting to see how they do Desmond Ritter and Taylor Heineke. Like Desmond Ritter being 27, 28, 29, 30, possibly 34 years old, and Taylor Heineke just being a
The highest paid backup,
yeah.
but I don't think that necessarily means that he's.
I think this will be a similar situation to Seattle last year, where they had Drew Lock and Geno Smith having an actual like battle for the quarterback spot in training camp. I think.
And
Go ahead.
well, you never know. I mean, the coach could not have as much of a patient way of things when you're in the regular season. See if they get off to a hot start or whatever, you
Right.
might start looking at more results based rather than development based.
It's not like they invested a lot in Desmond Ritter, third round pick from last year. So if they end up wanting to just go the Taylor Heineke route, I don't think it's too much of a big deal to cut ties with Desmond Ritter either at the end of the season or just let Heineke keep playing out Ritter's contract there. So
Couple trades too. Jonnu Smith, tight end from New England, which I believe Arthur Smith, the head coach of the Falcons, he coached him in Tennessee when the both of them were there. Jeff Okuda from Detroit. They made the possibly sneaky decision to get him. A lot of movement there. Made some splashes in the draft.
yeah,
Got Bijan Robinson, 8th overall. Matthew Bergeron improved their offensive line. Zach Harrison from Ohio State, I believe, was their 3rd-round pick. Um, didn't really lose too much either. They lost again
Olamide.
Olamide Zacchaeus,
I think it's Zaukis, but I'm not really sure.
and Rashawn Evans,
Yeah.
Marcus Mariota, and Nick Kwiatkowski, linebacker.
I think same issue as the I guess I won't say the same issue, it's not entirely true. Wide receiver room was ugly for this team. I was gonna say same issue as the Panthers, but I think this is the same issue as the I was gonna say the same issue as the Bucks. What I meant to say, and I'm saying now, is this is the same issue the Panthers have. Young, like rookie-ish QB, like a rookie in the sense that they don't have a lot of snaps under their belt, and a wide receiver room with that leaves a lot to be desired. Drake London is by far the core piece of that wide receiver room, but then Mac Hollins and Scotty Miller are the 2 and 2nd and 3rd string receivers, and behind that you have a man named Frank Darby and Penny Hart. So stop.
Those are Batman characters from like 1930.
Right. Stop me if you've heard those names before. Like, I just don't.
Not great.
Yeah, and maybe
They also have Kyle Pitts, who should be good.
Hey, he should be good, but it depends
Yes.
on if the Falcons hate him or not. Like, hey, Falcons, if you don't want to throw Kyle Pitts the ball, I will drive to Atlanta and drive Kyle Pitts back to Green Bay myself. I'll even buy you an ice cream. Like, if you're not going to use your top 5 pick at tight end, why the hell did you draft him?
Yeah,
Crazy.
crazy.
Over under 8.5. I think
It's high,
it's a high line.
but I think the Falcons are going to be decent.
I think they won't be. I think everything has to go right for them to get that to cross that threshold for them to be a 500 team. So I'm gonna say under. They probably get 7-8 again. Like they're not terrible. They have somewhat talent. I think Bijan Robinson is gonna be really good, but I think actually, you know what? I'll put it this way: if they start Taylor Heineke, I bet you they get over. If they don't, if they start Desmond Ritter, I think they go under.
They have a favorable schedule too.
Who do they
But
face?
in part, what?
What divisions do they face?
AFC South,
And the NFC North.
NFC North.
Ooh, we get the early Falcons Packers this week too.
We do. So we'll see them very early.
Okay.
I just look at some of the players that they picked up. Is Calais Campbell an All-Pro at 37? No, he's not.
But he'll be okay. But
But he'll be good. They got Jesse Bates.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Okuda is a strong bet to make. I don't know if he's going to be great.
Yeah, he's not. He wasn't good for the last couple years in Detroit, but
And he got hurt too. I think that was his rookie season. Was the year after. Um, Grady Jarrett's still on the team. Lorenzo Carter's a decent,
forgot about that man, Grady Jarrett. Forgot he
Bud
existed.
Dupree,
Right.
who's been kind of up and down, but still
Yeah.
productive player.
It's basically for me, the pieces are there for them to be a middle of the pack team. I
Yes.
think it just depends on their offense.
Yeah.
And if Bijan Robinson can have a huge rookie year, yeah, there's no reason they couldn't be over 500. But how often do you see it? Like Saquon was one of those players that can make a huge difference. And even then, the Giants weren't good the first year of Saquon.
No,
Like
they were
it's
bad.
a running back, while useful. This is getting into a whole different philosophical discussion, but running backs don't really contribute to winning as much as you'd like them to.
I'm
Only like the top all pros do.
I'm gonna make a bet here. I'm gonna
You're gonna
say
go to insert betting website here and put down some
no, no,
money.
no, no. I'm gonna say tentative over.
You're
I
the
think
same
they
the same way
I
I
think they
am.
get to like 9.
Yeah.
Because someone's got to win in the division. That's the thing. Then maybe it's the
That
next team that
also
we'll go
isn't
to.
true. We've been in divisions where there's been sub 500 teams win divisions. The Packers division did it like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. It was the years before Rodgers or the last McCarthy years.
That's true.
The East has done it multiple times. The NFC East has had multiple sub
And they've had
500.
and recently too.
Right.
And the Seahawks obviously did their thing
Yeah.
of
Like it shouldn't happen, but it does. And I think this division is in that realm of, hey, it could probably happen.
yeah. I don't know. I'm tentative over. Tentative over.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Rounding out the NFC South, the New Orleans Saints.
Ty Winters
Resignings.
zones.
Yes, that is right. Resignings. Jawan Johnson, tight end. Will Lutz, kicker. Jameis Winston's back for another round, obviously in a different role. Actually, same role. Andres Pete.
No, he played for them. Winston did. Did he not?
Not as much as you thought.
Oh.
It was primarily Andy Dalton.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Andy Dalton's making the rounds in the NFC South now, too.
Yeah.
Tano Capasigan? Capasigan?
I love the effort.
Thank you. Michael Thomas. I hope he's healthy because he's a good player and he's fun
Man,
to watch. But,
so does my fantasy team.
yeah.
Anyways.
Arrivals. Derek Carr.
Mm-hmm.
Foster Moreau also follows with Derek Carr. Jonathan Abram took a couple stops from Las Vegas to New Orleans, Green Bay in between. Jamal Williams, old friend,
My young son.
your young son.
I love Jamal.
Nathan Shepard, defensive lineman. Kalen Saunders. Draft. Brian Breesy, who had I want to say that was a late first round pick.
I believe so.
Isaiah Foxy. Cue up Jimi Hendrix. Kendra Miller. Kendre Miller.
Yeah.
And late in the draft, they took A.T. Perry, a wide receiver from Wake Forest, who I believe we talked about.
I don't
Draft?
remember him, but possibly.
It's hard to remember
I'm pretty
things.
sure we did it. You might have looked at him for a pick, but I don't remember the name, so.
Maybe. Departures. Marcus Davenport went up north to Minnesota. David Onyemata went to Atlanta. Andy Dalton, Carolina. Shy Tuttle to Carolina. Caden
Sean
Ellis. Very.
Shy Tuttle's a great name.
It's a great name. Caden Ellis went to Atlanta. A lot of interchangeable parts between NFC South teams.
Right.
That was the Saints offseason.
I think the Saints win the division. That's my take. Saints are over under is at 9.5. So the highest of the South we've had so far.
Yeah.
I'm going over. I think they get to 10. I think Derek Carr is good enough to float the ship, and I think
Yeah.
that they have good enough weapons around the entire team to make this sort of a, I'm not going to say cakewalk of a division for them, but I think there's like the talent level is pretty significant across their specialists over the rest of the division. Like Derek Carr, like I said, good enough to float the ship, but then Chris Olave and Michael Thomas, when healthy, are going to be pretty good playmakers for Derek
They still
Carr.
have Alvin Kamara.
Yep. And Juwan Johnson is absolutely torched the Packers that one opening game 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
he has talent. We'll see if he can put it together. Foster Moreau, we talked about, still pretty good. They have a good line too. Like they've
They
got
do.
Ryan Ramczyk at right tackle. That's a pretty good right tackle to have. So yeah, and they've
Defense is still there too. They got
mm-hmm.
Lattimore, Cam Jordan still productive, even though he's kind of getting up
Trauma
there.
value too.
Yep.
So
Demario Davis
mm-hmm.
has always been a very solid middle linebacker.
They even have Jack Heflin.
Oh, the Iowa man?
He was from Iowa.
No, he was a Packer guy.
Yeah,
That's
he
right. Yeah.
he did go to Iowa, but he was on the Packers practice squad or training camp roster last year. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not
That's
mistaken.
yeah, that's right.
Um,
Um,
over under 9.5.
I would say over. They should win the division. If they do not win the division, something has gone wrong, or you know, whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
they should be the division winners.
Right.
Um, but how confident am I in that? I would say like 75%.
Gotcha. So enough to brag about it, I'd say. All right, we're gonna jump around a little bit. We'll do the NFC West next, and start and get them out of the way. The Arizona Cardinals. My word, the Arizona Cardinals. Report came out, I think yesterday. I saw it at dinner that Kyler Murray is hoping to come back week 1. So
What? What?
that's what he said.
Okay.
So we'll see. Big we'll see
Interesting.
energy.
Yeah.
Um, re-signed again. This is not the not really what you're looking for as a Cardinals fan for re-signings. Kelvin Beachum, Greg Dortch, and Will Hernandez. Greg Dortch is their like third string receiver at one point
I was
last
just saying,
year.
it sounds like a wide receiver.
Um, Kelvin Beachum, right guard. And then Will Hernandez, right guard as well. Oh no, I missed. Kelvin Beachum's the right tackle, and then Kelvin Beachum's their right guard. So, they signed Kazir White and Zach Pascal. Me, noted Zach Pascal Sam like 3 years ago
Hmm.
when he played for the Colts when I thought he's actually gonna be something something. But I don't know. They 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 lost a
That
lot.
is, yeah, lost a lot.
Lost DeAndre Hopkins, namely. JJ Watt retired. Chosen Anderson, you may know him as Robbie Anderson, is gone as well. Byron Murphy and Zach Allen, all gone. We talked about Zach Allen on the Broncos feed as well, or the part as well. But yeah, it's not pretty for
No.
those Arizona Cardinals. They drafted Paris Johnson to bolster their line, which they'll need considering they have Kyler Murray back there. BJ Ojolari, a defensive end, and Garrett Williams, a DB. They only drafted one receiver, which is, I think, probably a problem. They don't have bad receivers like Hollywood Brown, Rondell Moore, and Greg Dortch will be okay. Zach Ertz is still there, but I'm not really sure how well he's going to slot in.
Hmm.
And they have Trey McBride behind Zach Ertz, who did play pretty well behind Ertz last year. So yeah, over unders. I could pull up quick, but I don't think it's going to be very high.
I don't think so either.
4.5.
Oh, that might be the lowest one that we've had.
I think it is. I'm going under.
I think it might be 4. And they're in a division that has 3 possible
Three
playoff teams.
possible playoff teams. Yeah. Well, the Rams maybe.
Rams are the bubble.
So are the Niners, depending on who they have a quarterback. The entire
They'll still
division has
they'll still
potential.
win.
Yeah, the entire division has potential to be playoff teams. And let's put it this way: those other three teams are beating the Cardinals.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a gap year, and who knows what they do with Kyler after that.
Well, they um, it's a gap year, and they lost Cliff Kingsbury. I forget who.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I
Who's their
forget.
coach?
I totally
Is it
forgot.
I think it's the other Eagles assistant, Jonathan Gannon.
That might be right. That's right, Jonathan Gannon.
They moved on from Steve Keim too.
Yep. Enough about the Cardinals. I don't need to talk about them no more.
Yeah, they're going to be horrid.
Yeah. The Niners, one of the most interesting teams, I think, of recent
Always.
memory. They re-signed their center Jake Brendel, their safety Tashawn Gibson, and their enigma of a wide receiver Jawan Jennings. Like, he's been the subject of many a fan-sided article about what their plan is for him and if he can actually produce. So we'll see if he can keep putting it together. He ended the year quite well last year, had some highlight games and things like that, but other than that, nothing too special. I think he's more so inconsistent than he is anything else.
Yeah.
They signed John Feliciano, former guard of the Giants, Javon Hargrave, the inside D lineman from the Eagles, and Sam Darnold, noted haver of mononucleosis, Sam Darnold. He is currently, I think, slotted to be their starter. If I'm not mistaken, because Purdy and Lance are hurt,
Brock Purdy is currently questionable on the ESPN 49ers depth.
but he's one. Like, I'm guessing he's one on the depth chart.
Purdy is number 1.
Yeah, I think it depends on if he's back in time, because I think there's questions on because he got hurt like the end of the playoffs,
It was
like the
that
end of the
championship
championship.
game.
Yeah, that's championship game. I think it was his elbow, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So
It was the
Tommy
I don't
John,
think it was Tommy John. I don't it might have been
the,
Tommy John.
the UCL, it might have been. Regardless, if they might be starting Sam Darnold at QB for the start of the year, which isn't so much of an issue given Kyle Shanahan's offense. They're affiliated to run the ball with people like Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. But obviously, if we're talking about those three quarterbacks, it means they lost Jimmy Garoppolo. They lost Samson Abukum, if I'm saying that right. Hopefully, I am. He was their, if you could excuse me, they're one of their edge rushers. Got a pretty nice deal with the Colts. So they still have Nick Bosa though, so that's not going to be a problem for them. Nick Bosa's Niners, Joey Bosa's Chargers.
Yep.
Lost lineman and Mike McGlinchey. He went to the Broncos. Charles Omaniu, who we talked about in the AFC episode, I believe he went to the Chiefs, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
It is right. Just checked it. And then lost good old Robbie Gould.
That's
He's
right.
no longer with the team. Not sure he's officially retired, but he is not kicking in San Francisco anymore.
The current starter is named Jake Moody, which is not a good name for a kicker.
No, you kind of want them even keeled. No first or second round picks for these Niners. They drafted Jair Brown, a safety, Jake Moody, who you just mentioned, and in the third round, by the way, third round pick, they drafted a kicker. So do with that information as you may. And then Cameron Latu. So
Who was the kicker?
Jake Moody.
They drafted 3rd round.
I'm pretty sure, dog, because that's why I was so surprised.
You know, the kickers that I like, they you take them in the 6th round. Those Anders curls.
Third pick or third round pick 99. Yeah. Yeah. They had 3 picks in the third round, and Cameron Latu, a tight end, by the way. Yeah, Jake Moody, kicker out of Michigan. But
Interesting.
it may not be a bad choice. 29 field goals, 29 of 35 for field goals, but then 10 over 40 and 60 out of 60 on PATs, but they still kick from like the 2 yard line. So
Yeah.
for what it's worth, I'm gonna be curious as to what this over under is gonna be because it really relies on health. I think it's gonna be high, but 10.5.
Yeah, that sounds right.
That sounds right.
Yeah, it's very health dependent. Their defense is still stacked to the masses. I
Yeah,
don't know if that's a phrase, but I'm making it one right now.
it probably is not. I'm saying
Huh.
over.
I wish you did the Rams first because you took that was your team that you did for prep. I'm trying to remember who was on that team still because they cut a lot. I'm going to say over. It's the 49ers. Knowing
It's a good idea.
Darnold,
Knowing the Rams.
yeah, yeah. I'll say over. Even if they're 11-6 or 10-5-1 or 10-6-1 or whatever.
Right.
That actually be under. But
10-6-1 would be under.
yeah, I'll go over.
Yeah,
It's
I
49ers.
think they'll be either the division winner or a wild card team for sure.
Also, they have Debo,
Yeah, and Greg Kittle, and Christian McCaffrey.
George.
That's like
Oh yeah, I forgot Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, you did
George
say
Kittle.
I forgot Christian McCaffrey's on this team too. So yeah, over. What am I talking about?
Yeah, over. Let's move on to those Rams real quickly because they lost a lot of players.
Yes.
They lost Jalen Ramsey, traded to the Dolphins. Allen Robinson, not that big of a deal, but still lost him nonetheless. Leonard Floyd, he went to the Bills. Matt Gay, Bobby Wagner, huge loss for them. Going back to Seattle, we'll talk about them in a second, obviously. But then they lost Nick Scott, their safety, as well as Greg Gaines and Ashawn Robinson.
That is like all of their line. Or
It's a
their defense.
lot of players, dude.
Wow.
They had like a I forget who they lost last year. I think they had a lot of their same team come back for the Super Bowl, like the run it back season.
Mm-hmm.
But this is like okay, the wheels fell off the Super Bowl team. We're all leaving kind of departure season from the Rams. They signed Demarcus Robinson, a wide receiver from Baltimore, and Hunter Long. He was in the trade for Jalen Ramsey. They re-signed Coleman, Shelton, and Brian Allen, both players on their line. So they didn't really keep a specialist or anything that they could have. They also lost Matt Orzik to the Packers, long snapper. Drafted Stephen Avila, center for them. Byron Young, a linebacker, and Colby Turner, a defensive tackle. Notably not in the first round because the Lions have those picks. So,
That's right.
yeah.
Uh,
The Rams, over under 6.5.
oh, that is spot on. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this depth chart. You still have Stafford, who you hope is fully healthy after just getting obliterated.
Yeah, last year was tough for Stafford.
Cooper Kupp also missed a lot of the season, if not more than half of it.
Yeah, they still have him though, but you can't really rely on him that much to.
Cam Akers, who requested a trade during the middle of the last year, they re-signed over the offseason, right? Or something like that.
Yeah, he requested a trade. They didn't trade him, and then he played really well to end the year. So then they ended up like making a deal together.
Aaron Donald's still on this team, but I'm looking at this defense and it's like I have no idea who these guys are.
Jordan Fuller, formerly of Packers Desires. Remember that?
I don't.
He was a restricted free agent. The Packers signed him to a deal, and the Bears matched it.
Kyle Fuller. That's Kyle Fuller.
Too many Fullers. I'm full of Fullers, Jordan.
You're full of Fullers.
Thank you for
yeah,
correcting
this. No, it's okay. Man. Yeah, I went under.
me. Yeah.
This team could be really bad.
Yeah. I think possibly the two worst teams in the league are going to come out of this division.
Whoa.
We didn't have anybody really that low in the AFC.
Not in the AFC, no. And we've hit probably four
the Texans
teams.
were like 4.5 or like 5.5, right?
Yeah.
Like it ain't gonna be good.
No.
Under 6.5 for me.
Yeah.
We shall see, though. If you have Cooper Cup, Matt Stafford, things can happen, but there isn't
And
much
Aaron
happening.
Donald.
There isn't much happening outside the rest of it. So, and it's just hard to stack talent with that when you just don't have talent to get because you don't have first round picks. So,
Yeah.
on to the division winners, the Seattle Seahawks. Pretty important offseason for them. They re-signed Geno Smith to a very large deal. Good for Geno. Really good for Geno. And Jason Myers, their kicker, who they've had for quite some time now. Arrivals, Devin Bush, linebacker. I think he was from
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh. Yep. And then Jerron Reed from the Packers reunited with him after he left
right.
last year. Departures, not a whole lot. Like, this was a good offseason for the Seahawks in that there really wasn't a whole lot of churn for them. Only loss for Rashad Penny and Quentin Jefferson of like players of note. They also lost Cody Barton as a linebacker. Ryan Neal as a safety, but all those guys were like backups or something. Like, they weren't really playing a whole lot of snaps in the first place. As we mentioned, they got Bobby Wagner. That's a big get for them as well. Just it was a good offseason for the Seahawks coming off of one of their more surprising seasons, making the playoffs as good as they were after trading Russell Wilson. They drafted Devin Witherspoon, a D-back, pretty high up in the draft. I think that was like 6 or something. It was the Broncos pick.
Yeah.
It was the Broncos pick, and the Broncos were bad. They drafted my beloved Jackson Smith-Njigba. So that wide receiver room is bonkers, by the way. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN is going to be really fun to watch. I'm going to try to watch as much as I can of that. Derek Hall, defensive end, and Zach Charbonnet. I'm going to assume that it's a
Notre
soft
Dame?
T.
I think so.
Yes, I believe that's right. But he'll go with the other young running back whose name is escaping me, Kenneth Walker. So
Charbonnet did not play at Notre Dame.
was he LSU?
He was Michigan and UCLA.
Oh,
Yeah.
never mind then.
Sorry, Kenneth Walker.
Regardless, Kenneth Walker and I think Zach Charbonnet are going to be a good backfield. I think Rashad Penny was good, but oft injured, so I'm not really sad that he left. Not that I would be sad as like a Packers fan, but I don't think it hurts them too much that he leaves and goes to Philadelphia. Considering that Kenneth Walker was so good last year.
Yeah.
The Seattle Seahawks over under
I'm ready.
8.5.
What? Over. Easy.
Yeah, I think
this might be one of the best teams in the league.
I think they're over without a doubt. They got better. They brought Bobby Wagner back.
I am very.
I'm curious as to if they think Geno regresses.
That has to be.
That has to be it. Like, I understand he was very good last year. I'm a Geno Smith fan. Just seeing it's a good story, but how often does this sort of thing happen? I bet you is the thinking from Vegas. How often does a journeyman quarterback find it in the NFL for a season and continue
10.
to have it for the rest of his career? After what? Yeah, year 7, 8, however long he's been in the league. He's been in the league quite a while.
Very.
He was the first quarterback, if I'm not mistaken, after Mark Sanchez in New York. Like, he's been around for quite a while.
He's 32. He was drafted in 2013.
Yeah, so this is year 10.
Yeah.
So how often do you find a guy that just finds it year 9 and then for the rest of his career, if he's 32 for the next 7 years, 7 years, does he really have it like that? I don't know. So maybe that's why the over-under is a little deflated. I'm not going to sit here and do analysis on it because it's not my job to do betting analysis. But that's definitely an interesting line.
Yeah. They big winners of the offseason between their draft, bringing back Bobby Wagner. He's still productive, even though he is, again, probably closer to the end of his career than obviously the beginning.
A vet leader, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Like, he's still good. He's still going to produce for them. But if nothing else, a vet leader that this team can look towards to be the voice of their defense.
Yeah. This is over. Even if Janito's going to regress some, he can't have as good of a year as he did last year. Maybe he does because look at that wide receiver room.
You add a receiver like that, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. He kind of replicates that year last year.
Yeah,
I don't think he wins comeback player of the year again, but
no, he might be disqualified
just maybe.
based on how well he played. Um, yeah, I think this team is probably one of the best in the NFC at least that for bar none.
Yeah, I think they win the division for sure. I should say for sure because the Niners are there. Um, I think it's going to be a fight for first in that division.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if they didn't win it, just knowing that. Dude, I'm really nervous for the Niners quarterback room. Like hanging your hat on either three of those QBs is troubling as a team looking to win a Super Bowl. Because like I get it, Brock Purdy showed out as this 256th player drafted in the NFL last year and in the playoffs and when it mattered. But like is that sustainable? I don't know. It's not something we've really seen before. Same thing with like Trey Lance. He was fine for I guess a game or two before he got hurt. And how does he look after an injury like the one he had? And I'm certainly not confident in Sam Darnold. Like it's just a really tough situation for them. And as most NFL teams go, they go as your quarterback goes.
I'd be willing to bet on Seattle more than San Francisco, given everything
Oh,
that
a
you just said.
thousand percent. I'd be more willing to place a bet on a Seattle Seahawks over than a betting the line
San Francisco.
of the Niners. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it just there's so much variance that could happen on that Niners team that I'm not too confident in.
It also doesn't help that they have like enough decent options.
Yeah,
I'm gonna call Darnold decent because
he's a starter.
he's a starter,
Yeah,
but he's not a great one. But
maybe
you'd
Kyle
also be
Shanahan works some sort of devil magic, but
I don't
we've seen
know.
enough of Darnold to know that there really isn't a whole lot of like ability there to tap into.
Yeah.
So, should we move on to the NFC East there, Jordan?
Let's do it. We're starting off with the New York Giants. Bring out my Chris Berman voice. Brought back a lot of key players. Let's get to the re-signings. Daniel Jones signed to a big deal. I forget the particulars.
That's what happens when you make a huge leap in year five.
It's a fair one. Dexter Lawrence, key defensive cog for them. Saquon Barkley, as of I believe this week, signed his.
I think he might have signed his franchise tag, but I think a lot of the reporting was he doesn't want to play on it. I think there was a very, very empty threat that he would not play week one, but I'm not really sure if that's going to hold.
Oh yeah, I think you're right.
He doesn't want to play on it, and he's not thrilled with the team's negotiations, from what I have seen, which understandably. Just
yeah.
just the state of running backs in the NFL right now is just kind of how it is.
Tentative re-signing.
Yeah. Well, no, he'll be there regardless.
He'll be there, but under what parameters?
Under what circumstances and attitude?
Brought back 3 receivers: Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, Sterling Shepard, he's always been kind of hurt.
Yeah, it sucks. I really like Sterling Shepard.
That was the resignings. Arrivals, pretty big one. Darren Waller made the trade with the Raiders. I believe only was like a 3rd and 5th round pick or something like that. It wasn't that much. Bobby McCain, a safety from Washington. Bobby Okereke,
Yep.
from Indianapolis. Keem Nunez Roches from Tampa Bay, defensive lineman. Ashawn Robinson from Los Angeles, the Rams. Jamison Crowder, still in the league. Comes from Buffalo. So made the big move for Waller. Definitely one of the biggest of the offseason, that's for sure.
Yeah, because Josh McDaniels hates Darren Waller and vice versa.
Yeah, he was not invited to his wedding. Or broke the news of his wedding, something like that.
Yeah, like announced to the world that Darren Waller was getting married to Kelsey Plum, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
And pretty sure they did not want that public. Like it was a quiet wedding, and I think he got traded like a week after the wedding.
Yeah. Good job, Josh. Departures. Julian Love, their starting safety, went to Seattle.
Hmm.
Richie James went to Kansas City. Probably going to be the next, Tyreek Hill.
Not a bad
Knowing
pickup for Kansas City, obviously, but he was
no,
pretty good in limited use last year.
Landon Collins had a lot of injuries. Uh, didn't really play a bunch last year at all. Jalen Smith, old friend, played a lot more for the Giants than you thought.
Yeah,
And Kenny Galladay, they finally parted ways with Sir Galladay.
because
Um,
because he wasn't good for him.
no, they handed a lot of money out to him, and then they benched him 2 years into his deal. I think it was.
They gave him like
Yeah,
an $80 million deal,
still
and
unsigned, Kenny Galladay.
yeah, I don't think he's gonna get a deal unless it's
No.
like the smallest amount. So
Um, Draft Deontay Banks, cornerback from Maryland. That was their first round pick.
hmm
Picked up a center in the second round, John Michael Schmitz. Jalen Hyatt, someone that we looked at during the draft. He went third round to the Giants. Splashy offseason, I would say. I wouldn't say it's certainly not to the level of Seattle. Obviously, we're coming off Seattle talking about them, so kind of comparison. But
right,
you make a big move with Darren Waller, you get one of the premier tight ends in the league. That alone is going to create some headlines.
right. Uh, very interesting line for the Giants. 7.5.
Oh, they are not betting again. They're not betting on Daniel Jones being the answer.
Which, like,
And Saquon Barkley, again, there's a lot of drama with that too.
like, truthfully, I get it. Like, I get it. But man, like, he played pretty good last year.
They
Like,
were 9-7-1. I've not kept up on the records, but they were 9-7-1.
I think they played better than that. Like, I think
I mean, they won a playoff game.
they went into Minnesota and won a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they
Pretty confidently.
they kicked their ass.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think they get over. That's not a bad team in New York. Like, I'm not really
No.
sure if their issue is with like just the team overall, or if they really don't think that Daniel Jones is gonna keep that production. But I don't know, dude. I think that this entire division is gonna be a little tough. Like, the receiver room is kind of hard to work around. Their starting three are Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, and Paris Campbell. But then they have Darren Waller too, and Jalen Hyatt. I think is going to be good for them. I think he wasn't so much who I wanted on the Packers as we discussed in the draft podcasts, but they love him apparently. He's been playing pretty well in camp and such. So still have Wandale Robinson and Sterling Shepard. Like, if anything, they've got options at wide receiver.
And Waller now, too.
Yeah,
I believe you already said, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The thing is,
I don't really get it, but yeah, go ahead.
they are playing the AFC East.
Tough.
You have Miami, Buffalo, Jets. That's going to be a fun game.
Yep.
They are the third best team in the division, clearly.
Yeah.
And we'll get to Washington because they are going to be bad.
Yeah.
Um, so there is a
7.5.
ceiling to what they could do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think they could get there. Like,
Gable's a good coach too. That's the
Yeah.
other thing.
Because, like, I look at the early part of their season. Excuse me. They start against Dallas at home. First and Sunday night. Pretty good game to start the season. But then their next three games are Arizona, early season San Francisco, and Seattle. Both of those NFC West games all three NFC West games. Holy moly. Excuse me. At Arizona is what I'm trying to say. At San Fran. And then home against Seattle. So going to Arizona, flying home, then going to San Fran's a little bit tough for travel. And San Fran's on a back-to-back, or on a Thursday, I should say. So they might just stay over there, which isn't a terrible idea and probably works out better for them. But Um, I think they could win those 3 games: Arizona, San Fran, Seattle. I wouldn't say like that's out of the realm of possibility for them,
No,
and that's already three games. You think you probably get at least 2, possibly 3 in the division if you sweep the Commanders and take 1 of 3 from or 1 of 4 from the Cowboys and Eagles. So that gets you to 6.
and they don't play the Eagles until week 16 and
16. They play
18.
them twice in 3 weeks.
So they have it tough with the out of division teams.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
what did you say? 7.5?
7.5.
Tentative over.
I think it's over. I think the playoff picture will probably look similar to what it did last year. With
That is
with all three of this
very
team making
fair.
it.
Yeah, because it gets top heavy very quick. With that segue,
With that being said, I do think that if there is somebody to miss it out of the division, out of those 3, it will be the Giants.
yeah,
Out of the last 2 teams we talked
the
about.
next tier,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's go to the Washington Commanders.
Get them out of the way.
Re-signed Darren Payne, defensive lineman, Tyler Larson, center, F.A. Obata, David Mayo, Danny Johnson, Rashad, or it's probably Rashad Wild Goose.
Strong
Amazing.
name alert.
Amazing name. Arrivals. Andrew Wiley from the Chiefs, I believe a tackle.
Yep.
Cody Barton from the aforementioned Seattle Seahawks. Jacoby Brissett landed with Washington.
He's still
Abdul
kicking.
Anderson. He's still kicking. He might be playing. Abdul Anderson from Atlanta. Drafted Emmanuel Forbes, 16th overall. Jartavius Martin, safety. Ricky Stromberg, offensive lineman. Departures, Daniel Snyder. I just realized I put Cody Barton on departures as well. This is how bad I am in my keep you a track of this.
I can't believe you put Daniel Snyder.
It's a normal one.
It's notable.
Pretty normal.
It's really funny.
It might be the biggest thing that happened to them this offseason because it is
Maybe.
pretty bad. Taylor Heineke, Wes Schweitzer, I believe, an offensive lineman. That was the Commanders' offseason.
Not a whole lot of movement for them.
Boy, howdy.
What'd they go last year? Do you have it up?
Went 8-1.
Yeah.
Which defies. I mean, they beat the Packers last year, and I believe they will play them again this year.
They do.
No, they
not.
Don't listen to me.
Okay, well.
Um,
Commanders over under 6.5.
I think this team is going to be poop.
I don't think they're gonna be poop. I don't think they get to 7 though. I think they probably get to 6.
I don't know, man.
I like the biggest thing for them clearly is quarterback. They're playing Sam Howell. Like that's not going to be very good for them. But they have talent on like everywhere else. Brian Robinson is good. Terry McLaurin is good. Jahan Dotson is good. Curtis Samuel is good last year.
Yeah.
Logan Thomas is good. Like this team has everything but the quarterback.
Chase Young, I believe, only tended the. There was something up with him too.
There was something up with him. I think he's back from injury, but
he's back from injury. I think they maybe declined his option.
that is right. That's what it was. They still have Kendall Fuller at cornerback, former of Packers notoriety, right? Right, Jordan?
They're gonna be mucus flying everywhere right now. Darren Payne. I'm gonna just keep going back.
Jonathan Allen and Montez Sweat are still on this team. Like,
yeah, they have a third string D tackle. His name is Benning Potato.
I don't think that's how you say it. That's an apostrophe E at the end.
Potato.
I don't think it's potato. Holy
Uh,
Disney, you better hope betting doesn't listen to that.
I'm going under. I'm going under. I think if the Cardinals are not the worst team in the league, it might be Washington.
I disagree. I think they're under, but I don't think they're going to be bad. I think they're just going to get outclassed by
It
their
is just
QB play.
so.
We
They
just
do
listed.
have,
We just listed
and they
all
have a
the talent they
caretaker
have.
guy. I
Right.
know, I know, I know.
Like their their specialists are good on offense. Like it's insane. Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson are still the running backs. What's his name? Riverboat Ron Rivera might hate Antonio Gibson. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean he doesn't have talent when he touches the ball. Brian Robinson was literally shot last year and came back to the NFL and had a
Oh, that's
great
right. I
season.
forgot that was him. And he wore a big hat.
Big hat man.
Big hat man.
And like they just have talent. They just if Sam Howell is good, they'll be in games for sure. For sure. It's just a matter of finding the right fit for quarterback. Which sucks for them because they what they pick at this draft.
16th.
And that was like their death knell for them. They needed to be bad
They
last year
need to be bad.
with Taylor Heineke to get one of the top quarterbacks, whether it was Anthony Richardson or Bryce Young or CJ Stroud or anybody. Like I'm surprised they didn't take
Levis.
Levis.
Oh,
Just
yeah, that's right.
that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised they didn't take him just to be like we kind of need one, unless they apparently very much believe in Sam Howell.
But they just trend the middle. That's the part of
That's the
maybe that.
problem. Like they just should have been bad last year.
Yeah.
Which again, you're not going to convince 53 guys to be bad so they can be better next year. But
You have to be Stephen Ross to be, telling your coach to tank and
right,
losing draft picks that way.
I think what they should have done is just tried to get capital to hit on some of these other guys, like maybe traded Scary Terry or traded Curtis Samuel or something, just to get more chances at getting
A DJ Moore esque
right.
haul.
I think you could have easily gotten that for Taylor McLaurin. Like I like Taylor McLaurin better than DJ Moore, frankly. So
I do too.
it's what do you do? But yeah, I don't think they're going to be the worst team in the league. They shouldn't be with the amount of talent that's on this team. But it's all comes down to if Sam Howell can throw the ball.
Sam Howell has a Sam Howitzer, you know what I mean?
Let's move on.
Let's go to the Cowboys. Lot of resignings. It's actually re-signings. I don't know why I was saying like that. Donovan Wilson, offensive lineman. Or no, safety, sorry. Terrence Steele, offensive lineman. They re-signed Leighton Vander Esch, Tony Pollard, Dante Fowler Jr., Tyron Smith after an injury-plagued season, Jonathan Hankins on the defensive line, Cooper Rush, backup extraordinaire, re-signed. Arrivals made some pretty big trades. Not big in terms of like Darren Waller or DJ Moore, but getting Stephon Gilmore for, I think, a 5th rounder. Pretty big.
Yeah,
Brandon Cooks, another wide receiver in the room.
to join CeeDee Lamb and for some reason I can't think of the other guy.
I'm pulling up their depth chart right now.
Why is it escaping me?
Michael Gallup.
Yeah,
Signed Ronald Jones, who for right now will be the backup to Tony Pollard.
Pollard coming back from injury,
That is true.
so we'll see how that
Um,
goes.
Lost a fair bit too, obviously. Ezekiel Elliott being probably the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
But lost guys like Connor McGovern on the offensive line, Noah Brown, kind of a decent slot wide receiver that popped last year. Dalton Schultz, tight end.
That's a big loss for them. Big loss.
That is
for
a big
them.
loss.
Like
Anthony Barr.
Jake Ferguson of former Wisconsin
Oh, that's
Wisconsin
right.
football notoriety is their now starter, but I think they drafted Luke Schoonmaker from Michigan. So
I say that. Anthony Barr from Minnesota played, I believe that was the only year that with the Cowboys.
yep.
Brett Maher after his yeah, that's
Meltdown,
sad.
implosion.
Unsigned too, which is even sadder because that guy was a really good kicker for
He
a long
was
time.
really good for a while.
And it just takes a day.
I would argue it took weeks.
Was it weeks?
He was not good for a couple games.
I thought it was maybe that game. I thought it
I'll
was like a
I'll
Crosby situation.
I'll check, but I'm pretty sure it was a few kicks.
Maybe you're right now that I'm thinking about it.
Over under for the. Oh no, sorry, you got to do draft picks yet.
Yeah, Luke Schoonmaker, that was their second round pick. Mousie Smith, also from Michigan, was their first round pick. Kind of usual Cowboys draft picks.
Right. Um, Dallas Cowboys over under 9.5.
Again, I kind of bewildered by that.
Yeah, I think this is a result of the division. I'm gonna say over. I'm saying
I'm
over
going to say
9.5.
over easily. They play the AFC East, obviously. But they also play the NFC South. Like their first 6 games are the Giants, the Jets, Cardinals, Patriots, 49ers, Chargers. Like I don't know. They were what was their record last year? 12-5 last year.
Yeah.
I think they are on that. They could easily be on that same pace again.
Yeah.
Tony Pollard's a really good running back.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones could be a night. He's always been like a guy that I felt like he's better than what he showed or where he's
Lunch
gone.
pill guy.
Yeah, and they still have a really good wide receiver room. They improved on it. Stephon Gilmore still has stuff left in the tank. He was just on a terrible Colts team.
Mm-hmm. You were right. It was one game.
It was one game.
It was one game. He
Brett
hadn't
Maher.
missed an extra point since week 12 when they played Indianapolis. He went 6 for 7 on extra points. They beat him 54-19. He hadn't missed a field goal since week 11. He missed one, but had missed 4 all year. But then missed 4 extra points against Tampa. They still won 31-14, and then went 0 for 1 against San Francisco on extra points, but then hit 2 field goals. So I think it just he couldn't hit them when they mattered, and they needed to hit him. He needed to hit those when they mattered. But I wouldn't blame the loss against the Niners on him.
No.
It's 1 point, and they lost.
Their
12-19.
offense, their offense was abysmal. I remember watching that playoff game.
Yeah,
I think comfortable over.
yeah, for sure.
Rounding out NFC East, the Super Bowl runner-ups, the Philadelphia Eagles. Very busy offseason. Brought back Jason Kelsey, James Bradbury, who I believe was the pass interference guy that took the blame for the way the Super Bowl ended, but it was not his fault. Darius Slay is back after briefly requesting a trade and then bending fences. Lane Johnson from their offensive line. They extended Jalen Hurts to a huge deal,
Big
rightfully
deal.
so. Fletcher Cox, I believe, took a pay cut to come back to Philadelphia. Brandon Graham, linebacker. Boston Scott, kind of a platoon running back for them. A lot of arrivals as well. Linebacker Nicholas Morrow from Chicago. Marcus Mariota is going to be the backup to Jalen Hurts.
They have 4 quarterbacks on their roster.
Ooh, what?
Marcus Mariota, Ian Book, and Tanner McKee. They have a backup competition, but
Yeah.
still they have 4 on their roster.
Wow.
Sorry, go ahead.
Olamide Zacchaeus from Atlanta. Just going to say that's his name.
Yeah.
Terrell Edmonds from Pittsburgh. Contavious Street
Strong
from,
name.
I believe, Arizona. Rashad Penny. Greedy Williams, who I believe I said was on the Cleveland Browns. He's not on the Cleveland Browns. Surprise. He's with the Eagles. And
strong name alert. A very,
Yes.
very strong name alert for a cornerback looking to get picks.
and made I think it was day 2 of the draft, or even day 3. DeAndre Swift from Detroit. They made the move to get him.
Yeah, their running back room is really crowded now.
It is.
DeAndre Swift, who I'm not the biggest believer in, Rashad Penny, who I like, Kenneth Gainwell, and Boston Scott.
Kenneth Gainwell, perfect name for a running back as well.
Yep, he do be gaining well. So
um,
that's a I don't know how they're gonna navigate that because they can really only keep two or three of those guys. Um, I'll be
well,
interested
that's
to see.
some of those choices may be solved for them. I mean, Rashad Penny has been hurt a lot.
Well, no, like just starting week one,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
like they can't keep four guys.
No,
I'd argue they probably don't need to keep three guys.
three.
So it's intriguing to me. That's all.
Um, we'll go to departures first
Yep.
because they lost a lot of big names.
Yep, they did.
Marcus Epps went to the Raiders, safety.
Hmm.
Jerron Hargrave went to 49ers. Isaac Sumalo, offensive lineman. TJ Edwards, one of the linebackers that the Bears took on the first day of free agency.
Yep.
Kazir White, CJ Gardner Johnson to
Big,
Detroit.
big loss for them.
Big loss. Miles Sanders to Carolina. Zach Pascal to Arizona, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yes.
a
Yes.
lot of defensive pieces lost.
A lot of turnover on that defense that was like the best in the league last year. Like they were as good
Yes.
as they were because of their offense, but they were contenders because of their defense.
Defense, yeah. Um, they did make a lot of draft picks to supplement that defense. Jalen Carter, ninth overall,
Where did he go, by the way? Just curious.
Georgia.
Hmm. Interesting.
30th overall, Nolan Smith, also went to Georgia.
Interesting.
Uh, Sidney Brown from Illinois, I believe, a safety. Keely Ringo from, don't
What?
know, from the 100th pick of the NFL draft. That was the Eagles' very busy offseason. They did not rest on their laurels following their Super Bowl run.
They weren't allowed to. They had to replace all
They
those
were
guys
not.
they lost.
That is true.
Um, I think they had a tough offseason given all their departures, but Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith are just going to be good for them. Like they're going to be Georgia football North, which is not a bad thing to be in this day and
No.
age.
I feel without you revealing the over under number, I believe it's going to be lower based on a lot of the moves that they made or the departures that happened because it informed what they did the rest of the offseason. But one could argue that they might be better for it because they have obviously talent that is young that you keep for longer, but also is going to be ready to play right away. Like between the Georgia guys and who they brought back,
Hmm.
and they were what? Let me see,
They were like 14-3 last year.
14-3, best record in the NFC.
Yep. I think NFL. I don't think the Chiefs got there. Maybe they did. I don't know. The
They are
over
14-3 as well.
okay. The over under 11 and a half.
I'm going over.
I'm going over as well. This team still has a stupid amount of talent on it.
Their ceiling is high. They're the
Anytime you have
best.
a quarterback entering their prime like Jalen Hurts is to go with receivers like AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, you're gonna be just fine. You're gonna be just
Yeah.
fine. So they'll win a lot of their games, and they still have Jalen Carter on their line, and they have Jordan Davis, who was like big brother to. I'm sorry, I meant to flip flop that. They still
Yep.
have Jordan Davis, who was big brother to Jalen Carter. So, at Georgia in college, so they're gonna go all just fine. Like this team will be good.
Yeah.
I guess that leaves one division. Our home, the NFC North. We'll run through it pretty quick. Not pretty quick, but we'll go through it as we usually would. Start with the Bears. The Bears.
Oh my god.
Um, Key re-signings because Lord knows that you needed to re-sign a bunch of players from that team last year. Which credit to where credit is due. The GM understood that they sucked, so they let a lot of people walk. But two guys that didn't let walk, Dante Pettis, wide receiver, and Nathan Peterman, quarterback.
Good God.
But the arrivals are where a lot of this comes into play. DJ Moore, as we talked about earlier. Tremaine Edmonds, the linebacker from, I believe, Buffalo. TJ
Yeah.
Edwards, we just talked about. Nate Davis, a right guard from the Titans. They sent him to a pretty huge deal to shore up that offensive line because, lordy me, they needed it. DeMarcus Walker, an inside D lineman. They gave him a pretty big chunk of change. Bobby Tunyon is no longer a Packer. He plays for the Bears now. Andrew Billings and Donta Foreman, who we talked about earlier. Yeah, spent a lot of money, made a lot of moves this offseason, like just to figure it out. Departures: Riley Reif and David Montgomery. So Dave Montgomery is an interesting leave. I think he left. He wasn't.
He
like,
left
yeah,
to Detroit.
Yeah, he didn't. It's not that I'm sure the Bears didn't want him back, but I'm guessing he didn't want to be there much longer. Just in my humble opinion, considering they have Justin Fields doing a lot of their running.
Yeah.
But Donta Foreman is now the starting running back on that team. So Donta Foreman, Khalil Herbert, Rashawn Johnson, and Travis Homer.
Herbert interests me. He might be better than Foreman.
I think he's like
He certainly ran against the Packers in that.
he's
Bears
the
team.
lowest version of Darren Sproles, I think. Like I think he's just like the minimum you got Darren Sproles, which I don't think is a starting running back, but that's just me. They drafted Darnell Wright pretty early in the first round. I think pick 9, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because that was the flop with
Yep.
Carolina. Gervin Dexter, a D lineman, and Tyreek Stevenson, a D back. So those are your Chicago Bears. And this line is stupid, by the way. 7.5. Under.
It's DJ Moore helps them some, but that offense is really lacking. Their offensive line is better, but their running back situation is not that great.
Yeah.
Their best running back is their quarterback.
If Fields makes a huge jump, I could see them getting to 7. I don't see them getting to 8.
No.
That's just I just don't. Maybe they're accounting for like a couple more wins against the Packers, 1 or 2 more wins against the Packers, but I don't know, man. That's high.
It's very high. And even though this division is kind of a toss-up in a lot of ways.
I think 2nd through 4th is a toss-up.
Yes.
I think 1st is pretty locked down.
Yeah. But under.
Jesus Christ. These lines are insane, which like I can't blame the website because the website's aggregating 4 different betting websites. So, I guess whatever. Under 7.5 for the Bears. Move on to the Lions. Not a whole lot of re-signings for them. Just Alex Anzalone, linebacker. I think of notable Hard Knocks featured. I believe. I think he was one of the guys that was
the Saints.
No, it was the Lions last year.
Oh yeah, duh. I forgot that they were the Hard Knocks. I did not watch Hard Knocks last year.
I did.
Was it good?
I really liked it for the Lions, actually. I thought it was a really fun season. Mm-hmm. I saw a lot of DeAndre Swift, which colored my opinion of him. Like, it made a lot of things make sense when you see that the Lions moved on from him. Their key arrivals, Cam Sutton, as we talked about, CJ Gardner-Johnson, Marvin Jones, and Graham Glasgow. I believe he's a lineman, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So, yeah, right guard came from the Broncos. They had a big draft. Jahmyr Gibbs at running back befuddled most of the NFL. Jack Campbell at linebacker in the 2nd round, and Sam Laporta at tight end also in the 2nd round. They hooked up with Brian Branch, the safety that we had looked at for the Packers. Hendon Hooker at quarterback in the 4th round, or 3rd or 4th round, and then Broderick Martin at D tackle. I really liked their draft. I think they did a lot of things quite well. People kind of clowned them taking Jahmyr Gibbs, the 2nd running back off the board at pick, I think like 15 or something like that.
It was right before the Packers.
I think it was right after the Packers pick.
Oh, it was? Yeah. Oh, yeah, because they moved back. That's right.
Yeah. Well, no, the Packers finished better than the Lions finished better than Packers.
Yes.
They had the head-to-head. So the Lions,
Pick 12.
the Lions.
Yes. I
What?
believe they did the trade. Remember?
I don't remember that, but okay. Anywho's will be.
We'll close this loop in a second.
Yeah. The point being is that a lot of draft analysts had Brian Branch as a first round pick. The NFL did not agree. Sam Laporta was a second round pick. Same thing with Jack Campbell. And Jahmyr Gibbs was like a second, third rounder. And they basically gave the explanation of if you just put Brandon Branch at their first round pick and then put Jahmyr Gibbs at the third round pick behind or where Brian Branch was, then it's a fine draft. Like they got good value out of their first 4 picks. And Hendon Hooker as the Jared Goff replacement, he coming off an ACL injury, but has an absolute nuke for an arm. Like that could play pretty well for them. Who was the trade with? Closing the loop.
It went from Cleveland through Houston and Arizona.
Okay then, got it.
Yeah, a lot of changing hands.
Yeah. So yeah, really good draft for them. Departures: Jamal Williams, as we talked about, Jeff Okudah, as we talked about, and Evan Brown, their center, who played 67% of their snaps. So not a big deal. Not like a critical piece. Your center should be playing 100% of your snaps, usually.
Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky,
Right.
Numac.
That's right. The Lions over under 9.5.
I mean, I'm looking now. I was coming in here being like, you know what? This is the best team in the NFC North. I think that's what it's going to be. And then I'm looking, and Jameson Williams is going to be suspended for, I believe, 6 games, the first 6 games, because of the gambling stuff.
Yep.
A lot of changeover in the running back room after a lot of success with Williams and DeAndre Swift when he got healthy again.
Mm-hmm.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Jones.
Still exists, yeah.
Yeah. Jared Goff, I mean, he is a good quarterback.
I think he's a good Dan Campbell quarterback. I still put him bottom 16 of quarterbacks.
Bottom 16?
Yeah.
What do you mean by 16?
There's
The
32
conference?
teams. There's 32 teams, right? There's 16 good ones and 16 bad ones
So,
on average.
oh, you're demarcating. Okay, so he's not even in
I would
the
not say
top
he's
16.
I would not say he's an above average quarterback.
He's in the below the equator.
Correct.
I don't think I would agree.
Alas.
But I would also
like I
over.
said, I think he's a good Dan Campbell quarterback. He's gotten a lot better under Dan Campbell than he did under Sean McVay after the Super Bowl. So I'm not putting chips in the Jared Goff hand, essentially, but I think the Lions are good. Like I think it's over as well, 9.5. I'm not gonna say a tough schedule, but the NFC North opponents this year are just hard to begin with.
Yeah.
Face the AFC West and the NFC South, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. No. Yeah, the South.
Yeah.
But then the Lions themselves play
Do they open the year?
they open the year against the Chiefs.
That's wild.
Their first 2 games are against the Chiefs and the Seahawks. At Chiefs, home versus the Seahawks. Which you remember from last year, they were in a boat race with the Seahawks and lost because their defense was so freaking bad. I'm trying to see who their other like random games are against. Oh, they play the Cowboys for no reason. Not no reason, but you know.
They can get out to a really hot start because after the Chiefs and Seahawks game, it's Falcons, Packers, Panthers, Buccaneers. Baltimore's a tough one. Vegas.
Yep, and then they're bye.
Then the bye, it's Chargers, Bears, Packers, Saints, Bears,
Yeah.
Broncos.
They could enter week 9 with like 2 losses max. Not shouldn't say max, but 2 losses. If you take 2 or 3 from Kansas City, Seattle, and Baltimore, they should win the rest of those games.
They should.
Not that maybe they win against Green Bay as a toss-up again. Like it's whatever. but
Yeah.
they beat the Packers twice last year. So I'm not going to say that
Beat the
they
Vikings once last year.
Yeah, like I'm not going to say that the Lions should lose to the Packers when they just beat them twice last year.
Yeah.
So then there was some churn, but they kept a lot of their defense and got better at defense. So that's good for
Yeah.
them because it was not a good defense.
Over.
Yeah,
Or,
over
yeah,
9.5.
pretty confidently.
The Vikings, they had an interesting offseason. We'll start with their departures because I think that's what really matters for this team. Lost Tomlinson. I believe he was an interior D lineman.
Yep.
Lost Dalvin Cook. Decided to cut him. Couldn't find a trade partner. Still unsigned. Lost P2P. Patrick Peterson. Lost Irv Smith Jr. Tight end. Shannon Sullivan, who was a fine quarterback. Not really a hurt that they missed him. Or they lost him. Zadarius Smith, Eric Kendricks, and Adam Thielen. A lot of turnover on that team. And to make up for it, they signed Marcus Davenport, Dean Lowry, and Byron Murphy. I think that was like their significant signings. They re-signed Garrett Bradbury, who was their center, who I think got hurt pretty early all year,
Yep.
and was like just hurt all year. Gave CJ Ham an extension, and they re-signed Alexander Madison to be their starting running back. Drafted Jordan Addison, wide receiver, and McKee Blackman, a cornerback, to shore up that also porous defense. But still have Justin Jefferson, still have Kirk Cousins, still have TJ Hawkinson, which is big for them. Hopefully he continues to be good for them. Not hopefully, but you know what I'm saying. If you're looking from a Vikings perspective, you want him to be good. And you still have Kevin O'Connell, right? Kevin O'Connell, is that his name? The hell's their coach's name?
Yes.
Now I gotta double check myself because I feel like it's wrong. Nope, it's right. Former, I think, Browns offensive coordinator? Am I lost in the sauce?
I think you're thinking of Stefanski.
Possibly. Yeah, I think I am thinking of Stefanski.
He came from the Rams before getting the Vikings.
That's right. That's right. Yep. Under the Sean McVay tree. Minnesota Vikings, 8.5. Below the Lions, notably.
Very notably.
I'm torn. I wish I could go push because I don't know.
It's a very uninspiring offseason.
Yeah, they lost.
They
a
got
lot.
worse.
They got worse. I still think it's over. You have a guy that went for almost 2,000 yards last year, and the same quarterback throwing to him.
The start of the season is not very kind to them.
Who do they play?
Buccaneers, Eagles, Chargers, Panthers, Chiefs, Bears, 49ers, Green Bay. So that's first 8 weeks.
Man, they have a late bye too.
Their bias week 13.
I mean,
They were
they could go like 3-3 through the first 6 weeks. Tampa, Carolina, and Chicago.
they were 13-4, and they had a negative 3-point differential.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yep, they were frauds. We saw it.
Tentative over.
I'm gonna go over. I think you kind of have to.
Yeah.
And that
But-
leaves. But what?
I was just gonna say they're not gonna be good.
I don't think they're gonna be a contender. No.
No.
But that leaves our hometown Green Bay Packers. We reached the end. We're going for it. Key losses. Some quarterback that no one cares about. Adrian Amos. We talked about. We guys know all this. Al Lazard. Bobby Tonyan, Dean Lowry. Randall Cobb. Chris Barnes. Mercedes Lewis still not signed. I'm not really sure he's going to sign with anybody again. That was really it for big losses. Big signings. Jonathan Owens. Kind of big safety signing. Yeah. Devarius Moore. Another big safety signing. And Matt Orzek, the long snapper. not a whole lot to do for Packers signings, but we kind of knew that going into the offseason given the cap problems with Aaron Rodgers and just things they had to navigate with his guarantees. So,
Who?
whomst? Who he sucks.
Maybe.
Um, you guys know all the Packers information, draft picks, Lucas Van Ness, Jaden Reed, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. It's going to be an interesting year for the Packers. I'm very curious as to how they start the year because their schedule is as follows: at Chicago, at Atlanta, versus New Orleans, versus Detroit, at Vegas. We talked about this in the schedule release. If Jordan Love is good, that might be 5-0. Like, there's not a lot there in those first
No, the
5
Lions
weeks.
are the best team of that bunch.
Yeah, Thursday night
Taking
against
second.
the Lions.
Yes.
So 4-1, 5-0. Like, that couldn't be a too bad start to the season. Having finished third in the division, we get that little nice bump for the rest of the schedule. But we talked about it. I think this was like our big deal when we talked about our schedule predictions. I think we had them like near 10, 11 wins, didn't we, Jordan? Like,
I want to say,
we had them high.
do you have the over under?
7.5.
Over.
I think it's solidly over. Like, they brought back a lot of good players on their defense, notably Justin Hollins. I don't want to say notably to make a joke out of it, but like, I don't want to make a joke out of it, but like, he was good last year.
He was good. I know. It's just funny that he was the first one, but it makes sense.
Aaron Jones is back, despite all of the thinking he might not be. Keyshawn Nixon's back. Like, I'm excited. I think this team is going to be interesting to say the least.
It'll be
And
interesting.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I don't. I know we're very critical of the other teams that have younger rosters and be like they can't do that when it comes to the Packers. We're like, you look at that schedule, and we're like, that's the one thing is that this is a young team.
It's a young team, but they're experienced young. Like the
In
offense,
key ways, yes,
the offense is young.
yes.
I'm sorry, the quarterback and receivers are young.
Skill
They have
positions,
veterans at running back, veterans on the line, and then their entire defense is veterans.
yeah.
Like, you're thinking the youngest guy in your secondary is outside of safety, but is Eric Stokes. Like, you still have Jair Razul out there on the sidelines. You have Devondre Campbell in the middle, Kenny Clark in the middle, or on the D line. Like, there's a lot of veterans on this team that have had winning experience, and I think that's what's so cool about this team is that I'm gonna make the comparison. Like the Commanders, the quarterback play just needs to be there,
Yeah,
and if it is, they have a chance to be good. It's pretty simple.
yeah, yeah. We'll get into more of it. Obviously, we're a Packers podcast after
Yeah.
all, but I do now that we're getting close to the season, and you look at the schedule and how we were just like, you never know. I do feel a little bit more confident. Like my vibes going into this year are vastly different than how it was last
Oh,
year.
the vibes are amazing, dude. I'm so excited.
I love a good low expectation Packers season.
It's so awesome.
It's
I
great.
just go in and see guys play and develop. Like, just like the defense, I'll be critical of because they're the same unit essentially. Like, there's not a lot of turnover on that defense,
And run by the same person.
and run by the same person. I'll be critical of Joe Barry throughout the entire
Yeah.
season. But on offense, we get to see Christian Watson year 2. We get to see Romeo Dobbs year 2. We get to see 2 starting tight ends and Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Jaden Reed's gonna be mixed in there.
That's the key.
Like, it's gonna be fun, dude. It's gonna be
It's gonna
fun,
very fun.
and we're gonna be here for you guys. through it all. Training camp starts in, as you're listening to this, it'll probably be Monday or
11 days?
Tuesday.
10 days?
10-ish days. It's Saturday now. Spoiler alert. Um, Training camp's around the corner. So with that being said, thank you for listening. Next week, after you listen to this one, so that'll be this week, a little bit of a time messiness there. We're going to get into some training camp battles. Some players to watch out for in training camp and what positions we think are going to be the most important to watch as training camp starts on July 26th, I believe. Or no, 25th.
Yeah.
5th and 6th, I think, is one of those 2 days. So, regardless of it all, that's the podcast. Be sure to check out all the other GSPN podcasts. Eurostep, make time for this. That just dropped their Bear episode. So go listen to that. Cruising for a Bruising. Brewers picked up game 1 on Friday night. Obviously, this is Saturday, so I don't know how the series ended. I listened to this on Monday. But I promise you, if you open your podcast play app right now, you'll find a fresh episode of Cruising for a Bruising, with Andrew Snyder and Adam McGee talking about the results of that Reds series. And then Ty and Rohan obviously always have Eurostep covered for Bucks News, and you and Adam have it covered as well for everything Milwaukee Bucks. Anything else, Jordan? Anything else you want to wrap up with?
No. Packer season is almost nigh.
It's so
Just 10 to 11 more days, and then we're back in the rhythm of things.
That's right. All right, folks. Thank you for listening and tuning in. We will catch you next time. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.